Rob Germain, what's your job here at CHEK-TV?
I'm the general manager, I guess the CEO as well. I'm on the board of directors of CHEK Media Group, and I, for a long time, was the news director here.
So what does your job look like when you have that many different responsibilities? What are some of the things that you have to deal with? Because people from the outside would look at it and go, well, I have no idea what it takes to run a local television station.
Yeah. I mean, I think my main mission is to make sure that we as an organization are successful long term, and that we're changing with the times, and that we're staying relevant, and changing technology, digital disruption, all that kind of thing. In fact, we're trying to be the disruptors if we can be. But day to day, it's making sure that that systems are running the way they're supposed to, that the revenue is looking the way it's supposed to, and making decisions about initiatives that we want to undertake, and working with people. We're employee owners here, which is different, and I'm an employee owner. So I feel a lot more responsibility to make sure that that everybody in the station is aware of what's going on, and that there's it's not just a top-down kind of a decision-making process. In fact, it's bottom up, or it's integrated.
And so what does that decision-making process look like? Because it is different when you work within a corporate structure. Corporate guys come along and say, well, it's our money, it's our company, this is the way that we're going to do it. How does that change when you now have a whole bunch of shareholders who also happen to be employees?
Well, it changes the dynamics for sure. But so you got to make sure that people are aware of, all the financials, the challenges that we're facing. But it also, in many ways, is helpful as a manager, as an executive, if you will, because you are getting buy-in from the other employees, and you're also getting ideas, and it's not every nobody has all the ideas, right? So it's in fact we are developing a strategic plan right now, a 3-year strategic plan, and right here in this studio we had over a couple of lunch hours all the staff come together and do a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities, and just we all asked ourselves, what's the what are the strengths of the station, that kind of thing, and that was the beginning point of our new 3-year plan that we're developing, and I'm going to be coming back to the staff with a draft and get more input, and then we have this happens to be a unionized shop as well, so we have a joint union management committee that we meet regularly with.
So you have some owners who are union members who are also part of the management committee. Yeah.
Oh, it's and it's quite different, obviously, than when it was managed. It was much more adversarial in the past, when union and management negotiated or came together. But now it's we're all in the same boat. We want to make the station successful in the long term. It's different, I think, from a typical corporation. Certainly a publicly traded corporation, they're looking for short-term economic gains. We're looking for long-term success. People here are invested in the company in more ways than one. It's their job, but they also have an investment. They also own part of the company, and so they want to. We're going to ride out the ups and the downs, and we're going to try to make this thing successful in the long term, because it's in everybody's
So does it
interest.
change the dynamic on a day-to-day basis as well? Because sometimes you're working for a company and you go, why are we still using this piece of equipment that's 4 years old? How come we don't have the latest technology? But when you're one of the owners, investors, you sort of go, we're going to milk this thing for all it's worth before we invest in the next new technology.
Yeah, I think it does. In fact, we'll hear about it. If we think people think we're wasting money for something, they're going to let us know about that, right? And they walk out of a room and they turn the light off. They take some personal interest in it.
Well, and it must be a great place to come to work when that's the collective objective.
It is. It is a great place to come to work. Yeah.
So tell me about your career. How did you wind up in this position? Because somebody might be going, well, how do I become a general manager of a local television station? Because you didn't start off with a business background saying, I'm going to run a business. what was your path?
My path was starting as a volunteer at cable. Yeah. And I did everything.
Where was that?
Right here in Victoria, as a matter
yeah?
of fact. I mean, there was a huge issue, and I was just learning camera and editing and that kind of stuff. And there was a huge issue at the time about they were going to tear down the mall and tear down the Eaton's department store in downtown, and they were going to redevelop it as a modern mall in downtown Victoria. And there was a huge controversy about it. And the cable company and the cable, me and a group of volunteers started to really get into this issue, and we had phone-in shows, and we were covering city council, and we were doing all kinds of things like that with live city council coverage, and then there was groups that formed that were opposed to this mall, and we covered those rallies, and then I thought, well, what's most interesting to me about this was the fact that they're going to tear down these stores. And there was 13 heritage buildings that actually sort of made up the department store over the years. It was all kind of combined. And I thought that's, to me, the most interesting part of the story is these heritage buildings that are going to be lost. So I volunteered to do a documentary, and I went to the archives, got all the pictures of the stores, and talked to a heritage consultant, talked to an architect about some of the architectural aspects of these buildings that were going to be lost, and did this documentary. And they ended up playing it, as they do on cable, over and over and over again, and it got a lot of attention. And then the City Hall couldn't decide if they should approve this new modern mall or not. And they hired a consultant to, just to help them make a decision, and the consultant ended up using some of my documentary in his response to City Hall, and his recommendation was that they actually preserve the facades of these heritage buildings and incorporate them into a mall. So approve the mall, but keep the heritage aspect of it.
Which they built in, almost atriumed it all in together.
Sort of,
yeah.
And I walk down to downtown today, and I see that, and in a little way, I realized how you can have an impact. Yes. And I'm not saying that wouldn't happen regardless of whether I did that documentary, but I had at least something to do with it, and certainly had a lot to do with the hours of programming that we put in, with, like I say, all the phone-in shows and all the coverage from City Hall. They had to move the City Hall public hearings out to the Royal Theatre to accommodate the public. Wow! Thousands of people came out to this thing. It was that big, and I got the journalism bug doing that.
Right.
So from there I went to BCIT.
You studied broadcast journalism.
Broadcast journalism at BCIT. I got lucky enough to get hired right out of school at CHEK-TV, which is really where my dream was, to work at BCTV.
Well, and it came true pretty quickly.
And it did. And so I was there for 6 years, producing.
The noon news, wasn't it?
Produced the noon news.
But did you also go to the early news as well as in the time when you were there?
Not for any length of time.
No, okay. I thought that or maybe you took on those responsibilities when maybe Tim wasn't there, or I think Tim Perry was there at the time, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah. So I my main job was producing the noon news.
Yeah.
And but then I did. I wanted to start a family. I was from Victoria, and our sister station at BCTV was CHEK. I was very familiar with the people who worked at CHEK, working with them on a collaborative basis, and so came to CHEK in 1995 as assignment editor.
Wow.
Yeah. So assignment editor. I remained assignment editor for 6.5 years or so, and then became the news director.
And of course got swept up in the employee efforts to buy the station, which you played a role in as well.
Yeah, so I played a pretty big role in that in 2009. And really it was, my motivation personally was, when I came to CHEK as assignment editor, from a news point of view, I wanted it to be the BCTV of Vancouver Island. I wanted it to be the very best it possibly could be. And I put in a lot of hours and a lot of sweat equity into making it the very best. And I just didn't want to see it just disappear like that.
Right.
I wanted to keep it going. So it was, So even going
from news director, though, to a station general manager, CEO of the company. That's a leap, and it's not a direct line. How did that come about, and what were some of the things that made that possible for you as a career path, and also to feel that your skill set was aligned with the needs of the station?
Yeah, and I never ever wanted to be in. I wasn't even sure about taking on the news director position when that came up, but but general manager, I certainly had never ever had goals to be a general manager of a TV station or anywhere. I was a journalist at heart, and but since becoming independent, being I've been on the board of CHEK, and been involved in the business aspect of it and making sure that there is no news without the business being successful. So I was working with the general manager and the other managers to make sure that the business entity was successful. And when the general manager position came up last September, I put my hand up because things are changing so much in the industry so fast, with technology, with audience habits changing, with the digital disruption, that I wanted to make sure that, for the success of this company, that we were adapting and changing and ahead of that curve. Because if we were just to continue doing everything status quo exactly as we have been, I think it's a sunset industry. We need to be making sure that we are maximizing on our mobile strategy, and for that matter, we want to develop an over-the-top strategy for people that don't have cable or don't have over-the-air receivers, or and we need to make sure that we are just maximizing on every opportunity that we have, even with the building that we now own. When we took over, we became renters. We bought the building in 2012, and this is really a resource for the community, and we want to make sure that we are capitalizing on that as well.
As you explain all that, I think there is no straight line to this position. There has to be a broad understanding of how the overall business works and be tapped into a wide variety of different distribution mediums, changes in technology, and so on. But if somebody said, yeah, but what's the one thing that you would say, I'm just getting started in my career, what should I do if I want to be able to, someday wind up in a position similar to yours?
I don't know that you can really target it. I think you have to be open in life to changes, and especially now. And I think that you need to be looking for opportunities and be learning along the way, everything you do, I suppose you can be that hyper-focused. I never was.
I don't know that you can be that hyper-focused. I think that, as you pointed out, everybody's going to come to this having had a relationship with the workings of a station. Right. You can't come in from outside. I
mean, most general managers, frankly, that I've worked for over the years, over the decades, came through the sales side.
Yeah.
Okay. So so that's probably the way to go if you want to be a sales and want to be a general manager at a business. Start in sales.
Yeah.
That was certainly not my path. I wanted to stay away as far away from possible as sales.
But life threw you a couple of curveballs.
It did, and now I'm I guess I'm in charge of the sales as well as programming, which over the years had really very little to do with.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you.